Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Monday, October 27th, 2025, and Second Sons is calling out the racist CBC, but in our upside inverted down or crazy world, upside down world, they're going to call the Second Sons racist for pointing out what is obviously true if you read anything that the CBC is putting out. So guess what it is? You'll find out when we get there. And we'll get there at the beginning of the show, or early in the show anyway. Halloween decorations are being banned by using bylaws. Twinkling lights, not allowed. Twinkling, I mean, what holiday has twinkling lights, right? Halloween, of course. And that other one that shall not be named, happy holidays, right? You can't say that other CH word, right? Oh, Christmas. Oh my gosh. Right. So it's one of those things. They are using bylaws to backdoor blasphemy laws. We don't like these twinkling lights or dancing or anything like that. So Alberta rallies, drone view, I think closer to 20,000 people. So that's good. I've seen some pictures. So people were saying yesterday 5,000. Sheila Gunn Reid said 5,000. Jason Levine said 20,000, or he said that the sheriff he talked to said 20,000. And looking at the pictures that I'd seen up until today, I was agreeing with Sheila Gunn Reid, and then today I saw the pictures that Jeffrey Rath posted, and I thought, oh yeah, well there was a bigger turnout than I thought. So maybe 20,000 people is certainly within the realm of possibility. So good job, Alberta. There's a lot of people out at the legislature, people listening to speeches and learning about what it would mean to go out on your own, right? Be your own independent entity and make deals by yourselves, get product to Tidewater, right? Sell oil to people who want oil and gas products without guilt or shame coming from Ottawa, and without Quebec getting all the profits from it. What a wonderful world it would be. Brookfield whistleblower has something for us. Just a little story there, really. Premier's going rogue, and so that's Doug Ford screwing over our trade stuff, and we'll be talking about trade stuff. Trump is going to be showing up at the conference Carney's at, but there's no meeting planned for Trump and Carney, so that's interesting. But I don't know who's going to get a handle on the premiers. And the biggest news today is the Liberals cannot pass the budget. They don't have the votes. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. CBC is reporting yesterday. Right now, we don't have the votes to pass the federal budget, says Liberal House Leader. Yay! Yeehaw, right? Like if I had guns right now, I'd be shooting them off in celebration. Here's just a little bit of this. The Liberal House Leader, Steve McKinnon, says the government does not have enough votes at the moment to pass the upcoming federal budget. So the Bloc has said pretty well no. The CPC has said nope, we're not doing that unless you meet these things that basically give us a window into what Poilievre's budget will look like, which is a lot like Justin Trudeau's budget, which art of the deal is better than what Carney's offering. So yay, Pierre's a hero. Anyway, regardless of all of that, Poilievre's offering almost in what Trudeau was offering. Maybe better. We'll see. We'll have to wait until he actually puts out his whole thing. But the government asked NDP, and they were like, we remember what happened to Jagmeet Singh. So no, we're not going to support this budget. Sorry. And there aren't any other dancing partners. So that means election. So can the NDP afford an election? If they support the Liberals and allow the Liberals to continue destroying the country, the NDP, it's not going to matter because nobody's going to vote for them. Maybe, right? The elections are kind of rigged though as well. So that I've got that issue is going to follow us around. Here is back to the article. The Liberal government will need the cooperation of at least one other party in order to pass the budget, which is being tabled on November 4th. Because the budget is a confidence vote, Canadians could be facing another election if it doesn't pass. Oh, that'd be sweet. I would love to go into an election. And again, we have so many issues that I don't think an election will solve anything, but it'll kill everything that the Liberals are trying to do. Everything dies on paper. They won't have passed pretty much anything. Like the stuff that they passed, not as inconsequential, but it's not free speech killing, right? And so they're trying to pass free speech killing things, and an election would kill all of those bills. So I think the elections are rigged, but this works for me. I'm down. Like let's take out all of these bills at the knees and start over. And they would have to start over. They'd have to reintroduce everything. They'd have to reintroduce a cabinet. And another thing was pointed out to me. All of the Liberals who were elected in 2019 just got their 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is, 5 years. They just got their 5 years, right? So this is the Jagmeet Singh cycle again, with a whole bunch of Liberal freshmen who were freshmen in 2019 who are just going to get out now, and they're gone, right? And the Liberals are going to be decimated, and then the Conservatives are going to take over, and they're going to use Islamophobia to backdoor speech laws. But I digress, or anti-Semitism. But it'll be interesting to see. if anybody comes and supports this budget, they're, especially if the budget is as bad as people are making it out to be, then the people who support this budget are going to have a hard time being reelected, just like the NDP did. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is demanding an affordable budget from the Liberals that includes broad tax cuts and keeps the deficit under $42 billion. That's the deficit. Holy cow. When Stephen Harper handed over the government to the Liberals 10 years ago, we had a $1 billion surplus. Now we have a $40 billion deficit, never mind the debt. He also wants Canada to ditch its industrial carbon tax. McKinnon said industrial carbon tax, but not like the consumer. Oh, the rest of the carbon tax, right? Is that the point here? McKinnon says Poilievre has put forward demands he already knows are unattainable. And so we're rejecting all of that. And the conservative leader wants to subtract hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue from the federal government. So that's pretty hard to square. Well, I think there's a lot of wasted spending. Why are we spending money on Ukraine? Why are we spending money on all of these other foreign countries when it's completely unnecessary? And I really can't. If somebody got into my head and said, tell me what you guys get out of supporting Ukraine in Canada. What do you guys get out of that deal, out of sending all those millions that you sent from 2021 to now, billions or whatever, however much we've spent? What do you guys get? Is Canada materially better? I wouldn't be able to answer you. I mean, the answer would be no. I can't give you an example of anything. Like, there's nothing that we've gotten for these billions of dollars at a micro level, at a medium level, at a city level, at a provincial level, at a federal level. There isn't anything that I can point to that I'm like, oh yeah, we did that. We got that. Look at that. Look at that thing that we got. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So what's the point? Why are we doing this? And why are we taking from Canadians to give to a foreign war with Russia? When really, I think that if you look at all of the parameters around this foreign Russian war, NATO acted improperly. NATO acted improperly in the 90s. NATO acted improperly in 2014. NATO acted improperly in 2021. Who bombed the Nord Stream? It was the Nord Stream pipeline, right? Who bombed that guy? Who bombed that? Isn't he in Sweden right now? And they're refusing extradition or something like that. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that's happening. And so when the bad guys do it, ooh, they're so bad, and we've got to be, real hard on those guys. But when the West does it, yeah, well, it's complicated geopolitical stuff. You wouldn't understand. Give me a break, right? Like, give me a break. Here is Peter MacKay, and he's talking former foreign affairs. He's talking foreign affairs, and he's talking about rogue premiers and potential meetings coming up, et cetera, et cetera. So he's giving kind of a 30,000-foot view of the lay of the land on trade. And I was saying yesterday, the United States shares our language. The United States is an hour away by truck. The United States, we have a great trade deal with right now that seems to be in the midst of being blown up by our leadership. And our leader shouldn't be focusing on diversifying trade away from the United States. He should be 100% focused on fixing the damn mess that Doug Ford made and that he himself, Mark Carney, is making of trade. And so I find that interesting. Other people, even former foreign affairs ministers, agree with my assessment that Mark Carney is not focusing on the right thing. Now, he says at this meeting, Trump's going to be there, and maybe Mark Carney is going to have a meeting with Trump by just being bold and walking up to Donald Trump and asking for time. Mark Carney has no incentive to make a deal with Trump. Mark Carney has been actively trying to scuttle the deal with Trump, and I think he's using assets like Doug Ford to do it. My prediction is Mark Carney will not talk to Trump. If he does talk to Trump, there will not be any kind of movement on the trade issues that Canada and the United States are in the midst of. Here's Peter MacKay.
Carney is overseas, but there's a bit of a turmoil and an emergency here at home, including what premiers are doing, going wildly off in all directions and provoking the type of very catastrophic reaction we saw from President Trump this week.
Yes, that is certainly very true. So where would you advise Carney to go from here? How important is it to bring all of the premiers together to have one united front when it comes to trade talks?
Well, he's got a lot of moving parts here. I think the fact that he's in Malaysia right now at the ASEAN meeting and President Trump will be there, he should make that his priority, is to try to get some FaceTime with the president and maybe talk him a little bit off the cliff. As far as, circling the wagons here at home and trying to get our premiers once again pulling in the same direction, I think that's important. I mean, rumors are swirling. that Premier Eby in BC is now thinking of running a similar type of ad campaign. It looks good. It's great domestic, local politics to, give the appearance that you're standing up to this evil tyrant. But, as we've seen, this has national consequences. Sector by sector fallout is happening now as a result of breaking off the trade agreements and leaving these tariffs in place. And so, I think, frankly, the priority is right here, minding the fences at home and trying to get this trade talk back on track.
What are the chances that Carney and Trump will have a sit down?
Well, a sit down is one thing, and that is usually something that is requested well in advance, just as some of these talks, the communique is already written. But there is the chance, and I've been to many of these foreign meetings, you have the spontaneity to go up and say, look, I would really like 5 minutes of your time. There's a lot at stake for both of our countries. There's nothing prohibiting the Prime Minister from doing that. And so I suspect strongly that he will, or he will attempt to do so, or even have intermediaries set this up.
Maybe intermediaries. I can't imagine Carney doing the Trudeau thing where he walks around trying to get a meeting and then tries to shake somebody's hand and the person turns their back on him and everybody laughs except for Trudeau, who's standing there holding the bag, right? And so I can't imagine Carney doing that. And Trudeau's seems more at home in a crowd than Carney does. Carney seems like a geeky banker who would have a hard time in a room, right? Whereas Trudeau could glad hand all night, but you put him into a boardroom and he's useless, right? So Mark Carney's probably useless too. He does what he's told. Mark Carney says Southeast Asia is a rapidly growing $5 trillion economy. Canada is working to finalize a new Canadian SEAN free trade agreement, a partnership that would create huge opportunities for workers and businesses on both sides of the Pacific. If this is mostly energy, and the energy isn't solar panels we buy from China, then fine, great. Any way we can get our product to customers in a way that we're making lots of money, because, oil scales. If you can send 100,000 barrels a day, you can send 500,000 barrels a day. And if you cap out at 500,000 or a million barrels a day, you twin the pipeline, right? You make it bigger or whatever the heck you can do. You can do all of these things. There's practical, if there's customers, you can meet the demand, right? But if we're drop shipping solar panels, we're not gonna make lots of money on that. That's not gonna be a thing that's really gonna work, I don't think. It's gonna create a lot of waste and it's gonna look really terrible, but it's not gonna be the thing that we need. Plus, the other thing that I was talking about earlier, the United States shares a common language. We share a border, we share a landmass. Asia doesn't share a common language. We'd have to learn Chinese. Am I gonna learn Chinese to build my websites to make sure that I can serve the Asian market that we're expanding into? What? Right? Like, advantage new Canadians. You get where they're going, right? You see what's going on. So very interesting things happening here. Mackenzie Gray says, while the Prime Minister hasn't said anything, Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc has put out a statement saying that they're, quote, ready to engagement with the United States administration, which is the responsibility of the federal government, a seeming reference to the Ontario ad. So people are trying to paper over what's happened with Doug Ford and move forward with trade with the United States. But again, if we can't get this done, my optimism for the USMCA in 2026, because we have to renegotiate the USMCA in 2026, as far as I understand it, gets less and less every day. I look at this and I think to myself, that's going badly. And if the USMCA goes as badly and it gives Trump a crap ton more leverage, right? Like, ruh-roh, right? So do you want a depression or do you want to become the 51st state? Because that's your choices now, you idiots, right? Like, it seems like that's where we're at. The whole statement from Dominic LeBlanc is this: as the Prime Minister said yesterday, we stand ready to build on the progress made in constructive discussions with American counterparts over the course of recent weeks. We will remain focused on achieving results that benefit workers and families in both the United States and Canada, and that progress is best achieved through direct engagement with the United States administration, which is the responsibility of the federal government. As we face a more divided and uncertain world, Budget 25 will make generational investments to build a stronger economy, protect our communities and borders, and empower Canadian workers with new opportunities. And so, crazy, right? Do you think that they're on track for all of that? It sounds like a wish list to me. Steve says Prime Minister Carney announces he expects to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in South Korea this week. Isn't it the ASEAN? I think it's the ASEAN. And so that's what this conversation starts out talking about. Like, will Mark Carney meet with President Xi Jinping? And we'll see. I'm not sure. Everybody says that they want him to. And my hesitation is, why are you wasting your time? You need to fix the trade with the United States ASAP. You need to fix this. And like, that's your job. That's your only job. The food professor says, there is no trade war. There are no sides. Oh, yeah, there it is. The title of today's show is going to be There Is No Spoon because of this. But I didn't remember why I titled it that. And so I didn't want to use a title that I couldn't explain. So anyway, there is no trade war. Oh, no? There looks to be a spoon there. There are no sides. What we're witnessing is an American recalibration of domestic fiscal policy with global consequences. Canada must adapt to this new reality with prudence, not posturing. Read the full article below. And so I'll read a little bit of this article, but I like that. I think that that's true because at the beginning of reading the sentence, I was like, oh no, there's a trade war and we're losing badly. And really, if you actually look at it, what's actually happening is the United States is repositioning. They are recalibrating their fiscal policy, and they're basically saying either get on board or we're going to crush you. And that's it. And Canada thinks that we have the clout. And I think that the EU was feeding Canada like stories, right? Like we'll do it too. You guys start and we'll definitely follow it up. Like we'll definitely do exactly what you guys are doing. And then we said, yeah, we're not going to do any of this. And then the EU made a trade deal and we just looked stupid because we couldn't put any pressure on Trump. The only thing that happened is we looked stupid. And so here's a little bit of this article from the food professor. And it says, Dear Premier Ford, sit down, please. Even with the USMCA safety net, Ford's aggressive tone is signaling Washington that doing business with Canada is riskier than ever. Our agri-food exporters are already paying the price. Yeah, the United States and President Trump are clearly frustrated with Canada's handling of trade negotiations involving softwood lumber, automotive parts, oil, aluminum, and steel. Whether Ontario's anti-tariff advertising campaign funded by the Ford government is the direct reason Washington raised tariffs from 35 to 45% on non-USMCA imports is beside the point. What matters is that the escalation reflects a deteriorating diplomatic climate that will have very real consequences for Canadian agri-food exports. Some analysts argue that a 10 percentage point increase is inconsequential. It is not. The issue isn't simply what is being tariffed or by how much. It is the tone of the relationship. Canada is increasingly perceived as erratic and reactive, a country negotiating from emotion rather than strategy. Premier Ford's Stand Up to America messaging, complete with the nostalgic Ronald Reagan cameo. Oh, somebody said yesterday, because I was asking what's with the fake wood TV and the fake wood background with the 1970s television set, and somebody was saying it is a nostalgic look back to the Reagan era. It is basically, we are all Ronald Reagan and we all hate tariffs just like Ronald Reagan hated tariffs, which I think maps. I think that's very insightful. Thank you for letting me know. And I think that like it's another level of FU to Trump that is just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. These people are so ridiculous. May have been rooted in genuine conviction. Ford likely believes, as many Canadians do, that defending the country's interests with bold language is the right thing to do. But again, that doesn't matter. In diplomacy, tone often outweighs intent. What plays well domestically can sound defiant or even antagonistic abroad, and the consequences are already being felt across industries. Over the past year, Ford has gone on public tirades against foreign-owned companies such as Crown Royal, which is, they make it in Manitoba, right? Like, accusing them of abandoning Ontario, and Stellantis for seeking federal and provincial support for their electric vehicle plant. These theatrics may score short-term political points. Do they? Because I don't look at that and think to myself, strong leader. When Trump crushes people, you read about it in the company value, right? Like you read about it in the business section. When Ford does it, he looks like an idiot because it takes 3 minutes to pour out a bottle of Crown Royal. But they have long-term costs. Yeah, they will have long-term costs. That's not how you negotiate. They reinforce the impression that Canada is hostile to international investors at a time when collaboration, not confrontation, is what's needed most. Such rhetoric fuels uncertainty on both sides of the border. The results speak for themselves. Higher tariffs, weaker investor confidence, and American partners quietly pivoting away from Canadian suppliers. Tariffs or no tariffs, many Canadian food exporters are already losing American accounts, not because of trade rules, but because of eroding trust and poor diplomacy. Yeah, it's not good if you can't work with people internationally to get a job done. Like say you have an expert who can do something and they don't want to work with you, or say an American expert wants to work with Canada for whatever reason, but then all of this extra stuff makes it impossible. Then Canada gets cut out of this important whatever work it is, and other suppliers get used and we get left behind. So that's not good, right? It's just overall, I think the strategy is bad. And I think that we're enacting a poor strategy that will harm us in the long run. BUAC says Carney could fix the canola tariffs with China and it would nearly double the non-US exports, but he won't. That's an interesting aspect, right? So the China thing is a retaliation. The canola thing is a retaliation for the EV tariffs that we put on to appease the Americans. So it's not as easy as just remove that, because if you remove that, sure, China will take the canola probably. No guarantees, but probably. But the Americans will be pissed off, right? Because then they'll say, you're bringing in Chinese cars and flooding the market, and so on and so forth. And like, it's a rock and a hard place. So I don't know how to amicably fix that problem, but it seems like you should negotiate about it. You really should. So Coffee Time News says Prime Minister Carney announces a new $500 billion investment deal with Southeast Asia. We are going to double our non-US exports over the next 10 years. Okay, sure. Even. Here's this guy, and he says, this is a minute. Canadian auto sector received the final nail in the coffin by Carney. Bye-bye auto manufacturing. And he's saying putting full cars together in Canada is not going to happen anymore. You might still get parts, but maybe not.
My heart goes out to the people in Windsor and Brampton and elsewhere, but I do believe this is the beginning of the end. I'm not for Canada, for the auto manufacturing industry, not auto parts. Not auto services, just putting the cars together in Brampton and Windsor and so forth. Here's my logic. Where am I going with this? Our auto industry, which everybody brags about, and I admire the workers there, and we claim, and Premier Ford and the federal government claim we have a comparative advantage. We've only had a comparative advantage, or done well, because we had access to the largest market on planet Earth called the United States. It was always conditioned on that. The moment we lose access, then the game is over, because those tariffs are going to make every car exported to the U.S. uneconomic. That means the producers of those cars are going to close down those plants. My heart goes.
Yep, that's just what happens. So things are problematic, and trade is sticky, and the people who are running the negotiations have gotten us into trouble with bad policies and are now stuck in positions that are bad.